Hey everyone, I have a video today for Simon Says Stamp showing you how to create 2 cards using some of their newest products. I love this Heart Parade die. I think there's so many things you can do with it. So in this first card, I'll show you how you can kind of piece it together and also do kind of a letterpress look in the background. And then here I'm going to show you how you can create these hearts kind of floating across a note card. So lots of fun techniques here, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with this card first. Let's go ahead and do the hearts across the center. Today I'm using the new 6x6 fresh cut paper pad from Basic Gray. I don't use many pattern papers, but I just love their 6x6 pads because the patterns are small, so they're great for card making. So I picked out 4 patterns that I thought would be great. I'm actually going to cut 2 sheets at the same time. You can do that because these are thin papers. I'm going to take my Simon Says Stamp die and lay it down onto the papers. Now I'm running this through my Big Shot, but you could use any die cut machine. I normally use the Vagabond, but it's kind of hard to videotape. So now I've run this through and you can see I have all the pieces cut here. You can try to keep them together, but I'm going to actually end up pulling them apart, so I'm just going to kind of take them all and set them aside. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with my other 2 pieces of pattern paper. Now I'm going to end up with lots of little pieces, so I could make more than one card at once, just kind of piece them up in different ways. Now I got this gray, it looks kind of watercolored pattern paper from that same pad, and I thought this would be great for the outline of my hearts. So this kind of got stuck in the die here, so I'm using a little tool to poke through the holes, and there we have the outline of the hearts. I just love how detailed that is. So now what we're going to do is start piecing the little hearts in the center. But we need something to have it pieced on, something to hold it. So I cut a thin strip of white cardstock and I'm covering it really well with adhesive. And I'm just going to take my outline and lay it right over it. Now this is just kind of a holding place. You could do this directly onto a card if you want to, but I want to pop this up. But you could do it directly on a card if you prefer. Now I'm just taking randomly, taking different hearts that I die cut from before and piecing it right into the place, and it just fits in perfectly like a puzzle. Now again, remember we have lots of different pieces we can put together and create more than one card at once. So I'm just going to go ahead and randomly fill this up, and you can see they're being held in place by that adhesive on that white strip in the background. Again, if you just did this right onto the card, it'd be quick and easy. Now I have the little pieces of white that are peeking around this die here, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut those out. Now you could do this with any die that has openings in the center, so maybe like a doily, you could put different patterns in the holes of the doily. Just go ahead and look at your dies and see which ones have openings, and you can put in different patterns into the little holes. So now that I have this piece, I want to go ahead and do kind of that letterpress look, that embossed look in the background on that white. So what I have is an embossing pad. There are 2 that I like. One is from Spellbinders and one is from My Favorite Things. I like them both. And I'm actually going to press this into watercolor paper from Tim Holtz. The only reason I'm using watercolor paper is I love the texture and I love the look when you emboss into it, but you could use regular white cardstock if you wanted to. So what I do is I put the embossing pad down onto my cutting plate, then the paper, then the die face down, and then the cutting plate on top of it, and I run it through my die cut machine exactly how I would with an embossing folder. So any of you who have die cut machines where you use embossing folders, you can just instead use that embossing pad and some paper and a die face down onto it and get this embossed look. It's a great way to get more out of your dies. Now I'm using the Big Shot, so I just put the tab over, so I just have tab 1 here with my embossing pad, paper, and dies. And look at that great pressed in image you get. Now I did on 2 pieces of white paper so that I could cut them apart and make it look like there's lots of hearts in the background. I couldn't run the embossing through twice on the same piece of paper because when you go through the second time, it would actually flatten the first embossing. So what I'm going to do is just take these 2 pieces and trim off the bottom of one and the top of the other, and then I'm just going to put them together, and then I'll hide that seam with the die cut piece here, and then it looks like there's lots of hearts kind of clustered together there in the background. Now you could use any kind of washi tape or any kind of tape to hold these pieces together. I'm just using some sticky tape here. And there we have our background piece, and of course I've got to trim the top and the bottom so it fits onto a note card. You could take any type of border die and emboss it onto 2 pieces of cardstock and then piece it up like this to get more out of your die. If you don't have that embossing pad, you can try embossing on top of a piece of felt or some kind of like craft foam. So now it's time to trim off the top and the bottom here, and I'm going to kind of play around with this and figure out how I want this to end up going on a card. But first I want to do my sentiment. I'm using this new stamp set from Kelly Perky and Simon Says Stamp. It's got this big I'm sorry greeting, but I really like the other images in there too. So there's like sending my love, thinking of you, I'm here for you, you have the biggest heart. Lots of great sentiments that would work on a variety of cards. I love the everything will be okay image also. Here I'm going to use the I'm here for you. I'm using the Hero Arts Shadow Ink and Blackboard. This is a new color that they have. It's like a super dark charcoal gray. I noticed that I didn't stamp entirely there, so I'm actually using the tip of my stylus with some ink to kind of fill in where my ink skipped. I didn't really ink up my stamp really well there, so that's a great way to kind of fill in spots that don't stamp well. So now you can see that great embossing in the background. And I'm taking some foam dots and putting it right along the edges of this so that I can keep some security behind these hearts as I add them onto the card. Now I kind of went overboard with the foam dots, but I wanted it to be secure. You could really just put this flat onto a card and save a lot of time. Now I went ahead and added some pattern paper onto a note card, and I trimmed down my embossed piece and put it up in the corner, and then just added my little hearts across the center. I'm addicted to adding shimmer to my cards, so I'm using my Marvy Just Glitter pen to quickly add lots of shimmer to these hearts. It really just kind of makes it catch the eye a little bit more. So this card shows one way you can use this die to kind of piece pattern papers together and also use the die to press and emboss an image onto cardstock. Now I wanted to show you a completely different way to use this die. And I love this technique. It makes it look like these little pieces are kind of floating across a card. And this is really quick and easy to do and a great way to use up scraps. First you just start by die cutting the hearts, and you have the outside outline piece. So any kind of die where you end up with an outline and then little pieces in the center would work great for this. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to temporarily adhere it with just some sticky tape onto the front of my note card. So I'm just leaving some of the hearts open that I can start with. Now I went ahead and used that same die to cut a bunch of pieces from scraps that I had, just random pieces of scraps. It's a great way to use up those scraps, and I'm going to go ahead and start piecing the little hearts right into the center, and I'm using the outline that we have taped down there as a guide. And I'm just putting it right over it using some foam adhesive so that it'll look like they're all floating along. So I need to move my tape over. I think having it secured down keeps it from shifting and makes this much easier. So I'm putting some little foam squares on the back of the next piece, and I'll put it down, and you can see that already is starting to look like it's floating. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fill these all in. Now for the super tiny hearts, I take my foam adhesive and I cut it at a diagonal, so I end up with little triangles. That's a great way to make smaller foam pieces for smaller hearts such as this one. Now again, you could save quite a bit of time by just gluing this straight down onto the card, but I really love the look of the dimension. So I'm just going to continue on, and I'm just removing the tape as I go. It should be kind of held in there enough by all those pieces that it won't shift, and I'll just finish off these hearts. Now once you have them all down, of course we want to remove that outline piece. That's just temporary. So I'm just going to start kind of cutting it away and pulling it away. Remember, there's nothing holding it there, so there's no adhesive on it, so we just take it and remove it, and there you have all those pieces look like they're kind of floating. This would be fun with the little pieces in a doily, or maybe a die that cuts a greeting out in the center. Just another way to get more out of your dies and use up some of your scraps. So I'm reaching for that same stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. It's called I'm Sorry. But I love, love, love the sentiments on this. I want a white heat emboss on this black, so I'm going to use my anti-stick powder tool first. Brush across there, then stamp with my Versamark clear ink. And now I'm going to add my Hero Arts white embossing powder. I'm always certain to use that anti-stick powder brush first when I'm embossing white on black because that powder tends to want to stick everywhere. Now I'm going to go ahead and heat this. Now you'll see that powder on the bottom there from the powder tool, but don't worry, once this cools down, I'm going to just go ahead and brush it off with my finger and you'll never see it. It just comes off nicely and you end up with a nice bright white image on the black cardstock. Now, as I mentioned, I am addicted to that shimmer, so this time I'm using my Wink of Stella pen, and I actually went through and did one coat, and then once it dried, I went through and did another coat, so I could really have a lot of shimmer on these hearts. I just thought it was great to kind of pull some attention to it, and also I went through and I put glossy accents on top of each of the hearts, and it kind of traps that shimmer in there and really makes it look like these are all little embellishments that are scattered along this card. So there you have two ways to use the same die to create two different looks. For more information or any of the products I used today, please visit simonsaysstamp.com. Thanks so much for watching.